Welcome back. Welcome back to Lawmakers. We're going to look now at a bill, a bipartisan bill, looking to make sure the cost of breast exams remains the same for both diagnostic tests and mammograms. Joining me are two Marietta legislators, Democratic Senator Michael Rhett of District 33 and Republican Senator Kirkpatrick of District 32, right next to each other. Thank you so much for coming on Lawmakers. So Representative Kirkpatrick, you're a doctor, an orthopedic hand surgeon, very delicate work, but we appreciate your medical expertise on this issue in particular. So explain the difference, define for us the difference between what is known as a breast magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, and an ultrasound exam and a mammogram.
Well, Donna, the diagnosis and treatment of breast cancer has changed a lot since I moved to Atlanta in 1986. And used to be mammograms were about it, that and an exam by the physician. But now for people, especially that are at high risk, it's gotten to be that a sort of a standard set of exams frequently includes an ultrasound. And then if there's any question, then an MRI of the breast is frequently ordered. And the advantage to having sort of a panel of things that you do is that early detection can really change the course of the disease, and in the long haul is much less expensive than waiting until someone has a later stage of breast cancer.
So the mammogram will show one thing, but an ultrasound and an MRI will show one thing, and an ultrasound will show something different. So this is what we're actually saying, that it's not the same. They pick up different things.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk about this a little bit, explaining what this bill is all about. Senator Rhett, why does this bill expand on that, and why do we want this so much?
Well, basically it comes down to women's health, and that's the most important part, because initially when women go in to get screened, Affordable Care Act and the insurance will use as a screening measure a mammogram. But if you run into an issue, then what happens is you need more in-depth view of what's going on. That's when the MRI or the sonogram, which is a picture from the ultrasound, will come in to take a look. But the challenge is a lot of times when you go for those diagnostic tests, the insurance companies will make you have to pay a copay or your deductible, which can be very expensive. And so in a lot of cases, people will wait a while before they get through that deductible. But in the meantime, if you have an issue and you're waiting around, it can metastasize or spread. So that's why we're trying to get this bill so that they can put perhaps MRIs or sonograms as a part of your regular initial screening or early stage screening.
So there's pre-authorization too, and that takes time too. Would that take that away?
No.
Okay.
No, prior authorization, as you know, that's something I've worked on ever since I got to the Senate. And we now have some guidelines and some transparency around prior authorization, which comes into play with any medical test or any surgery that you want to have. So we've never tried to tell the private companies that they can't do prior authorization. We just want to shine some light on what's required and what the criteria are. So mammograms are certainly very commonly done and should be very commonly done. Ultrasounds are probably more commonly done than they used to be. MRIs are usually not a screening test, but if something pops up on a mammogram or an ultrasound that's questionable, then that's when the MRI comes into play. And I think I haven't heard from anybody on this bill yet. It's early in the process. And it's actually Senator McNeil's bill, who couldn't be here tonight. But the point is that prevention and catching things early has really changed the course of breast cancer since I moved here 30-something years ago. And that's what we want. We want early detection because that leads to less aggressive treatments sometimes and longer life and better quality of life. So that is why I think the insurance companies many times will pay for screening tests in order to prevent the maybe up to 5 times greater cost on the back end if things are not diagnosed early.
And mammograms are free for certain people over a certain age in terms of what their insurance will pay for. But with these other costs, with these other exams, not free.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's the big problem here.
Yeah, they're still not going to be free, but the bill, my understanding of it is that they have to be handled the same way.
Okay. All right. So Susan G. Komen, the nonprofit that deals with breast cancer, is getting involved in this. Talk about why that group is involved and how.
Breast cancer is a very important topic. And one of the things I learned in the Air Force when I worked with pilots and navigators is that good health has a direct correlation to the success of the mission. And now that we're empowering women to move in different areas, we also want to make sure that they have good health when they go along. Susan G. Komen has certain programs like the Center for Black Women Wellness and Stand For Her that can provide free mammograms and screening so that women, if they do have a problem, they're able to get the help they need and referred in the right direction.
Yeah, so they're going to put some of their efforts into helping with this, if this bill is able to pass, it sounds like, right?
I think it's a national effort that they're undertaking, and this type of bill has already passed in several other states. I don't know what all of them are. I know that Texas is one of them, along with Arkansas and Louisiana, I believe. I'm not sure how many other states have passed it, but it's really just trying to be sure that people get the care that they need early rather than late.
I know a few years ago, the legislature passed making sure women knew more about dense breast tissues, that they were getting tested, that mammograms weren't enough, that you might get a letter saying you should go in again. Making a difference?
I don't have the follow-up on that, but that is a bill that we passed that should make a difference so that people are aware that they might be at higher risk for screening tests not picking up their disease right out of the gate. The other bill that we passed last year or the year before was called Lacey's Law. Do you remember that?
That's right.
And that was acknowledging that certain people are at much higher risk for breast cancer than others at an earlier age. And a lot of these are genetic types of predispositions to get cancers of different types, not just breast cancer. And so great strides are being made, and the imaging sort of profile has changed. I don't know what we're going to be looking at in 30 years from now. We may be able to just plug somebody's genes in and see what they're going to end up with. But, the law always lags behind the science, so we're just trying to catch it up.
And the other thing is, I think we think of this as something that women deal with, but men get breast cancer also.
I'm a doctor. I'm for everybody's health, not just women's health. And men have sometimes different things that they struggle with. Certainly, it's much less common in men, but we need to be sure that we're doing what we can to prevent advanced disease, no matter whether it's women or men. And
you mentioned density. At one time, I don't know how the technology has changed, if maybe they can pick up on it better, but Black women, because of the density of the tissue in their breast, it was hard sometimes through a regular mammogram, which is kind of like an x-ray, to determine whether or not they had an issue. So further diagnostic was required, but because of cost, a lot of times they put it off, and therefore, if they do have an issue, it can spread.
It's waiting too late. Yeah, so we're getting to it early. But it sounds like you've got lots of signers, so it sounds like pretty good on this one. Yeah.
Well, Senator Rhett and I work together on veterans issues and a lot of other things. He sits next to me in the Senate, and, there are a lot of things, people don't know this many times, but there are a lot of things in the Senate that we agree on that cross party lines.
We'll have you come back to talk about that. We want to thank you both for being here, and thank you for joining us tonight for Lawmakers. Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see you tomorrow, because that'll be Legislative Day 18. Have a good night.